The movie begins with a former Special Forces soldier named Levon. He wakes up in his car, which he clearly considers his home. After getting out, he opens the gate of the construction site where he works. We learn that Levon is the foreman at a construction company, and it's obvious that the workers respect and admire him deeply, so much so that one of them even brings him a meal specially prepared by his wife. Levon thanks him warmly. He then gathers the workers, encouraging them and informing them that they have a busy day ahead with a lot to accomplish. He promises them a bonus if they manage to finish everything on time. After that, he leaves them to get started and heads into the office, where he greets Carla and Joe, the owners of the company. Their daughter, Jenny, who handles the company's finances, is also there. From their conversation, it's clear that they see Levon as part of the family. Jenny then asks Joe for his credit card because she's going out with her friends at night. Levon smiles as Joe jokingly tells Jenny he doesn't want her spending too much, but eventually gives in to her persistence and hands over the card. Suddenly, Levon notices a car pulling up to the site. A group of men, clearly gang members, get out and start attacking a worker who was bringing breakfast to Levon. Levon calmly approaches them, trying to de-escalate the situation and get them to leave peacefully. One of them insults him and tells him to stay out of it. This angers Levon, who retaliates by throwing nails at them and fighting back with intense force and precision. The worker is stunned by Levon's combat skills, but Levon quickly checks on him to make sure he's okay before getting back to work. Later, Jenny approaches Levon, having witnessed the altercation. She asks if he was a soldier, since the moves he used during the fight looked professional. She tells him that her grandfather was also in the army, and she's seen him use similar moves. She then asks Levon to teach her some self-defense techniques, but he brushes it off and asks her not to mention what happened to her parents. She agrees, then hands him some food, saying her grandmother made it especially for him because she knows Levon lives alone and has no one to cook for him. Levon accepts the meal and asks her to thank her grandmother. After work, Levon goes to visit his daughter Mary, but is surprised to find her grandfather, Gordon, throwing a party on the same day Levon was supposed to take her out. It's a deliberate attempt to keep Mary from going with him, but it doesn't work. Mary runs to Levon, hugs him, and gets into his car. Gordon then appears and speaks to Levon disrespectfully, saying he doesn't feel safe letting his granddaughter be around him because trouble always follows Levon. He adds that Levon's violent and chaotic life cost his wife her life. Gordon tries to provoke Levon, hoping he'll lose his temper and hit him so he can use it against him in court to gain full custody of Mary. But Levon keeps his cool and tells Gordon he wasn't responsible for his wife's death. He then walks away. Levon takes Mary out to lunch at a restaurant, where he gives her a gift, a photo of her with her mother. Mary tells him she's upset with her mother for dying and leaving them. She also tells him that her grandfather gathered all of her mother's pictures and hid them. It's clear that Levon is still grieving her loss. Later, Levon visits his lawyer to talk about Gordon's behavior. The lawyer explains that Gordon has a large legal team working hard to win the custody battle. He's puzzled by Gordon's deep hatred toward Levon. Levon reveals that Gordon blames him for his daughter's death. He explains that his wife suffered from depression because he was away so often for work. Eventually, she couldn't take it anymore and harmed herself. The lawyer suggests that Levon try to make peace with Gordon, warning that Gordon is likely to win the custody case, especially since Levon doesn't have stable housing, which could be a major point against him. Frustrated, Levon refuses to reconcile and insists on continuing the legal fight. He hands over money to the lawyer and promises to find a housing solution as soon as possible. That night, Jenny goes out with her friends to a bar. She approaches the bartender, David, and asks if there's a table available for her and her friends. David flirts with her, saying he'll give her a great spot if she tells him her name. She tells him her name, and he shows her to a prime table. After she returns to her group, David secretly sends a message to a man named Viper, a member of a human trafficking gang. As soon as Viper receives the message, he heads to the bar with his partner, Artie. Meanwhile, one of Jenny's friends gets sick from drinking too much, so Jenny takes her to the bathroom and tells her she'll wait outside until she's done. But as soon as Jenny steps out, Viper attacks her, covers her mouth, and kidnaps her. The next day, Carla and Joe meet with Levon and tell him that Jenny has been missing since the night before. Her friends say she disappeared right after going to the bathroom at the bar. Joe pleads with Levon to help them find her, knowing that his military background could be useful in a situation like this. Levon refuses, saying he's left that life behind and doesn't want to jeopardize the custody case for his daughter by getting involved in violence again. Joe offers him a large sum of money to help, but Levon still refuses and walks away. After that, Levon goes to visit his friend Johnny at his cabin in the woods. Through their conversation, we learn that Levon once saved Johnny's life during a military mission, although Johnny lost his sight in the process. Despite his blindness, Johnny is deeply grateful to Levon for saving him. Levon tells Johnny about Jenny's kidnapping, and it becomes clear that he truly cares about her, almost like a daughter. He had promised her once that he'd always be there for her, but now he's torn, afraid that getting involved might cost him custody of his own daughter. Johnny encourages him to go after Jenny no matter the consequences. Motivated by his friend's words, Levon returns to Joe, who is sitting alone, watching a video of Jenny playing the piano. Joe is clearly heartbroken. He tells Levon that Jenny had been offered a scholarship to study music, but she turned it down to help him run the business. Levon reassures Joe and promises to find Jenny, and that he won't come back until he does. Levon gets in his car and starts retracing Jenny's steps from the day she was taken. He arrives at the bar she had been at that night and observes David, the bartender, secretly selling drugs to patrons. Suspicious, Levon concludes that David might be connected to Jenny's disappearance. Exiting through the bar's back door, Levon finds that the security camera wiring has been cut. He searches the area and discovers a bead from Jenny's necklace on the ground, clear evidence that she was kidnapped and tried to resist. Later that night, David closes the bar and gets into his car, unaware that Levon has placed a tracking device on it. Levon follows him to his house, breaks in silently, and catches David by surprise with a gun in his hand. Before David can reach for his own weapon, Levon disarms him and pulls out a photo of Jenny, demanding answers. David denies knowing anything, claiming he already told the police everything he knows. Levon, sensing he's lying, drags him into the bathroom, puts him in the tub, and starts spraying him with cold water, trying to force the truth out of him. Eventually, David breaks down and confesses that the people who took Jenny are extremely dangerous. He warns Levon not to go after them, that if they find out, they'll kill Levon's entire family. But Levon ignores the warning and demands names. At that moment, two of David's associates arrive and call out for him. Hearing their voices, David screams, hoping they'll save him. The two men rush in and immediately open fire, killing David. Levon quickly returns fire and takes both of them out. Afterward, Levon searches their bodies, takes the money they were carrying, and notices their tattoos, symbols confirming they're part of the Russian mafia. Levon then stays hidden nearby, keeping a watch on David's house until the next day. Levon sees two men step out of a car, accompanied by their boss, Volo. He watches them from a distance as they enter David's house. Inside, Volo is furious when he finds his men dead, and when he realizes the money is missing, he immediately suspects it was robbery. He orders his men, Danny and Vanko, to find whoever did this, fast. Just then, a cleaning company van arrives. Two women step out and start clearing the house, disposing of the bodies and scrubbing all traces of the crime scene. Volo leaves the house with Danny and Vanko and drives off quickly. Levon follows them in his car at a distance until they arrive at Volo's house. Parking nearby, Levon grabs his gear and sneaks into the woods surrounding the house to keep watch. From his hidden position, he witnesses Volo physically abusing his wife. After she leaves, Levon breaks into the house. As soon as he sees Volo, he throws hot coffee in his face, knocks him out, and ties him to a chair positioned over the pool. When Volo regains consciousness, he finds himself bound and gagged, with Levon staring down at him. Levon rips the tape off his mouth and asks if he knows who he is. Before Volo can answer, Levon tells him that he knows exactly who Volo is and who he works for, the Russian mafia. Volo warns Levon that killing his men and stealing his money was a grave mistake. He threatens that Levon's life will become a nightmare and his entire family will be slaughtered. But Levon shows no fear. He punches Volo in the face and tells him that the beating is what he deserves for hitting his wife. Then, Levon throws the stolen money in Volo's face and tells him he doesn't want it. Holding up a photo of Jenny, Levon demands that she be returned to her family. He explains that she was kidnapped at the bar where Volo's people were dealing drugs. At that moment, Volo grows enraged and starts ranting in Russian, mentioning someone named Dimi. Levon tells him he doesn't understand Russian and demands he hand over Jenny if he wants to live. Instead of cooperating, Volo hurls insults at Levon, so Levon cuts the rope and drops him into the pool, leaving him to drown. As Levon exits the house, he pulls out his phone, revealing that he recorded the entire conversation. He sends the audio for translation, and from that, he learns that a man named Dimi is the one behind Jenny's kidnapping. Soon after, the same cleaning crew arrives again to dispose of Volo's body and clean up the crime scene. Meanwhile, Volo's brother, Simon, arrives at the house. We learn that Danny and Vanko are Simon's sons. They mourn the death of Volo, and Simon enters the house, devastated. He reviews the security footage and sees Levon killing Volo. He's stunned by Levon's boldness and wants to know what could drive a man to kill his brother. Furious, Simon tells his sons to bring Levon to him alive because he wants to take revenge personally. At that moment, we see Jenny inside the suitcase, terrified and struggling to free herself. Garrett approaches her and calmly tells her that he's not going to hurt her. He just wants to paint her. He pulls back a curtain to reveal several paintings of girls who look just like her. He begins talking about them as if they're still alive, and that's when Jenny realizes he's not just an artist. He's dangerous and completely unhinged. Meanwhile, Levon meets again with his friend from the narcotics division and shows him the burner phone he got from Dutch's gang. His friend manages to trace the last incoming call, which leads them to an abandoned farmhouse on the outskirts of the city. Without hesitation, Levon heads to the bar that night. Meanwhile, Artie is monitoring the place through surveillance cameras. She starts to grow suspicious when she notices Levon carrying a weapon tucked in his waistband. She quickly radios her partner, Chidi, and asks him to approach Levon to see what he's after. Chidi sits beside Levon, who immediately places a stack of cash on the table. Chidi assumes Levon is looking to buy illegal goods, so he takes him to meet the gang leader, a man named Dutch. At the same time, Artie informs Dutch that Levon is armed and tells him she suspects he might be a cop. Dutch confronts Levon, asking why he's carrying a weapon. Levon calmly explains that he's just trying to protect himself from thieves. He's carrying a lot of money. Dutch isn't convinced. He demands Levon empty his pockets right there to prove he's not undercover. Levon refuses and prepares to leave, but Dutch signals his men to attack. A fierce fight breaks out. Levon takes them all on, one by one, dropping them effortlessly. He grabs one of the men, ready to end him, when Dutch shouts for everyone to stop. Dutch steps forward, visibly impressed. He tells Levon that no regular cop fights like that. He must have military training. Levon nods and says he's a former soldier, now in the business of dealing contraband. He adds that he has plenty of clients in Chicago and that he's looking for a new supplier because his previous one got arrested. To test him, Dutch quotes a high price. But Levon fires back, saying that price is way above what he's used to paying in Chicago. That's all Dutch needs to hear. He's convinced Levon is the real deal. He tells him to meet at a specific cafe the next day to finalize the deal. The following day, Levon shows up at the cafe as planned. There, he meets Artie and Chidi again. He hands him the money, and in return, they give him a burner phone. They tell him he'll receive a call with the delivery location. Levon takes the phone, but warns them not to double-cross him, then walks away. Later, while sitting in his car, Levon gets a call from Dutch. Dutch tells him the package is hidden beneath the seat he's sitting on and explains that the secrecy was necessary to make sure no one was tailing him. He then says he'll call again tomorrow to discuss the delivery of the larger shipment. Levon ends the call, looks at the drugs, then tosses the entire package into the river. That night, Viper and Artie delivered Jenny to the buyer, a man named Garrett. When they ask him why he wanted this particular girl, he tells them that when he saw her photo, she reminded him of a painting he's always loved. He then hands him a bag full of cash and gold. Garrett leaves them and heads inside to open the case where Jenny is being held. But as soon as he gets close, Jenny slashes his face. Furious, Garrett storms back out to Viper and Artie, yelling at them and ordering them to take her away and kill her. Meanwhile, Levon is staying in a modest apartment in a remote area. He pins all the photos and intel he's gathered to the wall. Suddenly, he receives a call from Dutch. giving him the time and place where he'll be meeting his boss to collect the shipment of illegal goods he requested. The next day, Levon arrives at the meeting spot, an upscale restaurant. He immediately notices the place is filled with armed men. Before he's allowed to enter, he's searched thoroughly. Then he's escorted to meet the gang's boss, and to his shock, it's Demi, the man he's been hunting. Before any formalities, Levon pulls out the cash for the shipment and hands it over to Dutch. Demi then asks to see Levon's ID. Levon hands over a fake military ID, one he used back when he was in service. One of Demi's men takes the card to verify it, but it's forged so expertly that he returns saying it's legit. Satisfied, Demi shakes Levon's hand and gives him the package. He tells him he's glad. This could be the start of a very profitable partnership. Later, Levon dumps the drugs down the restaurant's bathroom toilet and leaves. Back in his apartment, he pores over the photos of Jenny and her friends at the bar. He spots Viper in the background, staring intently at Jenny. He then checks David's phone and discovers David had been in contact with Viper, confirming that Viper was the one who kidnapped her. Levon realizes Viper hangs around the same bar tied to Dutch's gang. He heads there and waits in his car, watching the place. But Artie spots him through the surveillance cameras. Knowing that Danny and Vanko are hunting Levon, she calls them immediately and tells them he's parked right outside the bar. They show up quickly. As soon as Levon sees them, he jumps out of the car, steals a motorcycle parked nearby, and speeds off. Danny and Vanko chase after him, firing shots, but Levon manages to evade them. Just when he thinks he's escaped, he crashes into a police vehicle and hits the ground hard. To his shock, the police hand him over to Danny and Vanko, who give them cash in return. They tie him up and throw him in their car. There, they reveal that Volo, the man Levon killed, was their uncle. Levon just smirks and mocks their ridiculous outfits. That sets them off, and they lunge at him, fists flying. But Levon fights back with brutal force, overpowering both Danny and Vanko. When Dan tries to shoot him, Levon grabs his hand and pushes it aside. The bullet hits the driver in the head, killing him instantly and causing the car to flip over. Despite the crash, Levon manages to kill both Danny and Vanko. He then frees himself from the restraints, climbs out of the wrecked vehicle, and shoves the car into the river to erase the evidence. When Simon finds out that his sons are dead, he's devastated. Enraged, he calls for a meeting with the other mafia leaders. Meanwhile, Viper and Artie are with Demi, who's fuming over what happened with Jenny, especially the scar she left on Garrett's face. Viper assures him it won't happen again. He says he and Artie will handle her themselves, then find a new girl to deliver to Garrett. Back at the Mafia Summit, Simon briefs the other bosses on what happened. One of them decides to send two of their most elite enforcers, Nestor and Sefi, to track down and eliminate the man who killed Simon's brother and sons. Simon takes them to Demi, assuming he might know Levon's whereabouts, especially since Levon was spotted outside Demi's bar. That's when we learn a twist. Demi is actually the son of Volo, the man Levon killed and dumped in the pool. It's revealed Demi had a long-standing conflict with his father, and rather than mourn his death, he was glad to see him gone. But when Demi hears that Levon also killed his cousins, Danny and Vanko, he's stunned. He tells Simon that Levon introduced himself as a drug dealer, even showed him what appeared to be a legitimate military ID. He shows Simon a photo of the ID as proof. Simon, furious, tells Demi that Levon had been targeting him all along, and that his brother and sons died because of it. He storms out, leaving Demi speechless. The next day, Nestor and Sefi manage to dig up everything they need to know about Levon. That morning, Levon is driving when he receives a call from his daughter's school. They inform him that Jordan, his father-in-law, didn't show up to pick up Mary, as he does every day. Alarmed, Levon rushes to the school, picks up Mary, and heads toward Jordan's house. Mary, confused, asks why her grandpa didn't come for her. Levon starts to feel that something is very wrong. When he arrives, he finds Jordan's house in flames. Levon jumps out of the car and rushes inside. He finds Jordan tied up on the floor, unconscious. Levon lifts him and carries him out of the burning house. Once safe, Jordan tells Levon that the Russian mafia did this to him, and it's all because of Levon. He blames him for everything. But Mary cuts in, defending her father. She tells her grandfather that Levon just saved his life. Jordan, moved by her words, realizes his mistake and sincerely apologizes to Levon. After that, Levon gets in the car with his daughter and drives to see his friend Johnny. There, Levon opens up to him, recounting everything that has happened, how he finally got to Demi, and how he discovered that Demi is involved in human trafficking. Levon is convinced that Demi knows where Jenny is. Johnny takes Levon to his weapon stash and tells him to gear up with whatever he needs for the mission. Levon chooses his weapons and equipment, then goes to say goodbye to Mary. He asks Johnny to take care of her while he's gone. That night, Viper and Artie take Jenny to a remote location to kill her. But Jenny fights back fiercely, kicking at them until the car crashes into a tree. Seizing the moment, she breaks free and escapes into the woods. Jenny runs until she sees a police car, but her relief quickly fades when she realizes it's the same group of corrupt cops who work for Demi's syndicate. They grab her and hand her back to Viper and Artie, who are about to finish the job, until they get a phone call from Garrett. He's changed his mind. He wants Jenny back alive. Meanwhile, Levon arrives at the bar where Demi is holed up. He overhears Demi arguing with a woman. Quietly and methodically, Levon takes out Demi's guards one by one, leaving no one standing. Cornered, Demi grabs the woman and threatens to kill her. Levon, unfazed, shoots Demi in the hand holding the gun, seriously injuring him. He tells the woman to take the money and leave. Then Levon sits down with Demi and shows him a photo of Jenny, demanding to know where she is. Demi claims not to know her personally, but admits he knows the place where the high-paying buyers who purchase kidnapped girls go to party. It's a secret underground casino, frequented by powerful businessmen from around the world. Levon forces Demi into the car and makes him lead the way to this club. Once they arrive, Levon pulls Demi out of the vehicle, stands him up, and demands to know how he could traffic women like they were merchandise. Demi coldly replies, "I only care about the money." Levon doesn't hesitate. He shoots him dead on the spot. He grabs his gear and heads toward the club to rescue Jenny. At that moment, Dutch receives a call. He learns what Levon did, killing Demi and heading for the underground casino. Furious, Dutch gathers all his men to intercept Levon. Inside the club, Artie leads Garrett to the room where Jenny is being held. She's tied up, her wrists bound. Garrett approaches, intent on punishing her for scarring his face. But suddenly, a loud explosion rocks the entire building. Levon has detonated a bomb to breach the club's defenses. Chaos erupts. Levon storms in, eliminating every one of Demi's guards in his path with lethal precision. Terrified patrons flee in a panic, just as Dutch and his crew arrive and rush inside. But Levon moves swiftly and efficiently, taking out all of Dutch's men in seconds. Then he faces off against Dutch in a brutal hand-to-hand fight. Dutch is strong, relentless, landing heavy blows. But Levon ultimately overpowers him and kills him. With the threat cleared, Levon moves quickly through the wreckage, searching for Jenny. Levon hears a scream echoing from one of the rooms. It's Jenny. He rushes toward the sound. The moment he sees Garrett in front of him, he doesn't hesitate. He shoots him dead on the spot. Then he turns to Viper, beating him mercilessly until Viper collapses, lifeless in his hands. Meanwhile, Jenny manages to get her legs around Artie and strangles her to death. At the same time, Nestor and Sephi arrive at the scene, followed by the corrupt police. Without a moment's hesitation, Sephi opens fire on the officers, blowing up their car in a fiery explosion. Inside the club, Levon frees Jenny from her restraints and leads her toward the exit. But just as they're about to escape, Nestor and Sephi ambush them, opening fire. Levon pulls Jenny to cover, then uses the tactical camera on his rifle to locate Sephi. He takes the shot, perfect aim, killing him instantly. Then he grabs a grenade, pulls the pin, and hurls it toward Nestor, blowing him to pieces. With the danger cleared, Levon and Jenny make it out of the club. They hop onto a motorcycle and speed off into the night. From a distance, Simon watches them go. Furious, he calls the mafia boss to report what happened. But the boss calmly tells him that the mission is over. They're done with the girl and the man who rescued her. Simon protests, saying he needs revenge for his brother and his sons. But the boss warns him, "That's your personal vendetta. If you can't let it go, we'll deal with you next." Furious and powerless, Simon ends the call and screams in rage. The next day, Levon arrives at Jenny's family home. Everyone is shocked and overwhelmed with emotion when they see her safe and sound. They rush to hug her, crying and thanking Levon for saving her life. Later, Levon returns to his daughter. He's welcomed warmly by Johnny and his wife. The three of them sit down for a peaceful meal, a moment of calm after all the chaos, smiling, finally safe. And that was our film for today. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.